In the darkness between stars, something is calling, not with sound, not with light, but with gravity. That most fundamental of forces, that sculptor of space-time itself, something beyond our cosmic horizon is pulling. Every galaxy in our observable universe, every congregation of 100 billion suns, every spiral arm and elliptical halo is moving, not just drifting, not merely expanding with the fabric of space itself. Moving towards something, 600 kilometers per second, that's our collective velocity. The Milky Way, Andromeda, the entire local group of galaxies, the Virgo supercluster, all of us, flowing like water toward a drain we cannot see, toward a destination that lies beyond the edge of everything we can observe. We call it the Great Attractor, but that name, clinical and measured as it sounds, cannot capture the profound, unsettling truth it represents. That our universe contains mysteries we can measure but not see, forces we can calculate but not comprehend, destinations we are rushing toward but may never reach. This is not a story about what we know. This is a story about what pulls us forward into darkness. The realization came slowly, as all paradigm shifts must. In 1929, Edwin Hubble stood before the universe and saw it expanding. Galaxies fleeing from one another, space itself stretching like fabric pulled at all corners. The Big Bang became real in that moment, not as theology, but as physics. The universe had a beginning. It was growing, and we could measure its rate of expansion. But something was wrong. The numbers didn't match. Galaxies weren't just moving away from each other in the smooth, predictable pattern the expansion should produce. There was something else. An additional velocity. A peculiar motion superimposed on the cosmic expansion, like a riptide beneath the waves. By the 1970s, astronomers mapping the cosmic microwave background, that ancient light from the universe's infancy, detected an anomaly. Our galaxy wasn't sitting still in the expanding cosmos. We were moving, fast, very fast, toward the constellation Centaurus at over 600 kilometers per second. 600 kilometers per second? Let that sink in. In the time it takes you to draw a single breath, our entire galaxy, all 400 billion stars, all the planets and moons and asteroids, all the dark matter binding it together, moves 18,000 kilometers towards something we cannot see. The local group moves with us. Andromeda, Triangulum, dozens of smaller galaxies, all bound in gravitational embrace, all flowing together toward that same invisible point. And then came the revelation that changed everything. In 1986, a team of astronomers discovered that it wasn't just our local group. The entire Virgo supercluster, a structure containing thousands of galaxies spanning 100 million light-years, was flowing, moving together, being pulled. Pulled by what? They pointed their instruments toward the source of the pull, toward a region of space 400 million light-years away, in the direction of the constellations Centaurus and Hydra. They expected to find a massive cluster of galaxies. What they found was more unsettling. They found nothing. Or rather, they found the zone of avoidance, a band of dust and gas from our own galaxy's disk that blocks our view of that region of space. Behind that obscuring veil, hidden from direct observation, something massive enough to pull thousands of galaxies was lurking. They named it the Great Attractor, but the story doesn't end there. It deepens, because in 2008, astronomers discovered something even more disturbing. The Great Attractor itself, along with hundreds of other galaxy clusters in our cosmic neighborhood, was being pulled by something even larger, even more distant, even more massive. They called it the Shapley Supercluster, 650 million light-years away, containing tens of thousands of galaxies, the largest concentration of matter in our observable universe, and it too is pulling, drawing everything toward it with gravity's inexorable hand. But here's what keeps cosmologists awake at night. The Shapley supercluster is near the edge of our observable universe. Beyond it there is more space, more structure, potentially infinite structure that we can never see because its light hasn't had time to reach us yet. Because the universe is only 13.8 billion years old and light travels at a fixed speed, there is a horizon beyond which we cannot observe. And beyond that horizon, what else is pulling? What megastructures? What super-duper clusters? What concentrations of matter so vast they dwarf even the Shapley supercluster might exist in the unobservable beyond? We are falling towards something we can measure but cannot see, toward a destination that may lie beyond the edge of everything we can ever know. This is the cosmic context of our existence. This is the canvas on which human civilization paints its brief, bright story. Now, zoom in. Collapse those cosmic scales. Come home to Earth, to this pale blue dot, this ordinary planet orbiting an ordinary star in the outer regions of the Milky Way galaxy, this world that is simultaneously insignificant and precious beyond measure. And here, in the layered stone of our planet's crust, we find another kind of mystery, another kind of pull toward knowledge we cannot fully grasp. The archaeological record is not complete. It is not even close to complete. Consider what we're working with. A fragmented puzzle with most pieces missing, subjected to 13,000 years of geological chaos since the end of the last ice age. Floods, earthquakes, erosion, rising sea levels that drowned ancient coastlines where human civilizations would naturally have flourished. The destructive force of time itself, patient and relentless. Everything we know about the deep past is extrapolated from fragments, and sometimes those fragments don't fit our models. In 1900, sponge divers off the Greek island of Antikythera discovered a shipwreck. Among the cargo, an unremarkable lump of corroded bronze. For decades it sat in a museum, ignored, until someone looked closer. The Antikythera mechanism, a geared astronomical calculator of stunning sophistication, built around 100 BCE. It contained over 30 bronze gears, could predict eclipses, track the movements of the sun and moon, display the metonic cycle, calculate the timing of the Olympic Games. It was a computer, an analog computer built with mechanical precision that wouldn't be matched for another 1,000 years. When it was first understood, it shattered assumptions. The ancient Greeks, we thought, didn't build such things, couldn't build such things. Yet here it was, pulled from the sea. Physical proof that our understanding of ancient capabilities was incomplete. How many other mechanisms like it existed? How many were lost to time, melted down for their bronze, corroded beyond recognition in shipwrecks we'll never find? The Antikythera mechanism isn't evidence of aliens or ancient astronauts. It's evidence of something more profound. That human ingenuity, given the right conditions, can achieve technological sophistication that vanishes when civilizations collapse, leaving only myths and fragments behind. Now consider Göbekli Tepe. In southeastern Turkey, on a hilltop overlooking the Fertile Crescent, lies a megalithic complex that should not exist. Massive T-shaped pillars, some weighing 20 tons, arranged in circles, carved with intricate reliefs of animals, snakes, foxes, lions, vultures, scorpions, a bestiary in stone. The date, 9600 BCE, 11,600 years ago, before agriculture, before pottery, before the invention of writing or the wheel or the rise of the first cities, before everything we thought necessary for complex monumental architecture. Hunter-gatherers did this. Mobile bands of people who, according to our models, shouldn't have had the social organization, the sustained labor force, or the motivation to carve and transport and erect these megalithic structures. Yet they did. And then, around 8000 BCE, they deliberately buried it, filled the entire complex with debris, creating the hill it now sits beneath, preserved it for us to find 11,000 years later, when we would have the tools to excavate and study it. Why? The standard narrative of human civilization is linear, from simple to complex, from hunting and gathering to agriculture to cities to states to empires, a steady march of progress. But Göbekli Tepe suggests something different. It suggests that complexity can emerge, flourish, and vanish. That sophisticated social organization and symbolic thought and monumental construction predate everything we thought they required. It suggests that the story is not linear. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Giza rises from the desert. 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing 80 tons, fitted together with such precision that you cannot slide a razor blade between them. Built, we are told, in 20 years during the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom. The engineering challenges are staggering, not just the construction, but the logistics, quarrying, transportation, the feeding and housing of tens of thousands of workers, the precision measurements, the astronomical alignments, the mathematical sophistication encoded in its dimensions. And here's the unsettling truth. The Great Pyramid represents the absolute peak of pyramid construction. Every pyramid built after it is inferior, smaller, less precise, constructed with less sophisticated techniques. The learning curve is backward. The first attempt is the best attempt, and everything that follows is decline. That's not how technology usually works. That's not how skill develops. Unless the knowledge came from somewhere else, somewhere earlier, from a previous iteration of sophisticated civilization that left few traces except the knowledge itself, passed down, fragmentary and fading, until even that was lost. We are not suggesting ancient aliens. We are suggesting something more parsimonious and more unsettling. That human civilization is older, more complex and more fragile than we think. That knowledge can be lost as easily as it's gained. That the archaeological record is so fragmentary that entire sophisticated cultures could rise and fall in the gaps, leaving only scattered artifacts and myths. And that we, in our cosmic journey toward the Great Attractor, in our civilizational journey through time, might be following paths already walked by those who came before. There is a pattern in the ruins. Not the ruins themselves, but what they suggest. What they whisper about the nature of knowledge, the fragility of civilization, the ease with which sophistication can collapse into darkness. The Library of Alexandria, the greatest repository of knowledge in the ancient world, containing perhaps 400,000 scrolls, the accumulated wisdom of Greek, Egyptian, Babylonian, Persian, Indian, and Hebrew scholars. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, literature, the works of Euclid, Archimedes, Eratosthenes, treatises on engineering and architecture now lost to us, burned, neglected, destroyed over several incidents across several centuries, and with it went knowledge that would take 1,000 years to rediscover. Eratosthenes, the librarian of Alexandria in the 3rd century BCE, calculated the circumference of Earth with remarkable accuracy using only shadows and geometry. He knew the planet was spherical. He measured it. That knowledge was lost. For 1,000 years it was forgotten, doubted, debated, until Renaissance explorers proved it again by sailing around the world. The Romans built concrete that has lasted 2,000 years. The Pantheon's dome still stands in Rome, still waterproof, still structurally sound. Modern concrete crumbles after decades. We don't know exactly how they made it. The recipe was lost. We've only recently begun to understand the volcanic ash they used, the seawater mixing process, the way crystals form over centuries to actually strengthen the concrete rather than weaken it. The recipe was lost, even though the structures remained. The Baghdad battery, clay jars containing iron rods and copper cylinders, sealed with asphalt dating to Parthian Mesopotamia around 200 BCE. Fill them with acidic liquid and they generate electrical voltage. Were they batteries? Ritualistic objects? Storage vessels that happened to have the right configuration? We don't know. The knowledge of their purpose and construction died with the people who made them. The Antikythera mechanism vanished from history for 2,000 years. No one built another geared calculator of such complexity until medieval Islamic scholars and then Renaissance European clockmakers reinvented the necessary techniques. The knowledge was lost, even though one example survived at the bottom of the sea waiting to be found. Do you see the pattern? Civilization is not a steadily ascending line. It's a series of peaks and valleys. Knowledge accumulated over generations can be wiped out in a single catastrophe. A fire, a conquest, a collapse of trade networks, a plague, a climate shift. And the greater the sophistication of a technology, the more vulnerable it is to being lost entirely. Because sophisticated technology requires sophisticated infrastructure. It requires specialization, trade networks, institutional knowledge, master-apprentice relationships spanning decades. Break the chain anywhere, and the knowledge can vanish. Now scale this up. Apply this pattern not just to individual technologies or libraries, but to entire civilizations. The Bronze Age collapse around 1200 BCE saw sophisticated, interconnected civilizations across the Mediterranean and Near East collapse simultaneously. The Hittites, Mycenaeans, Minoans, gone within a few generations. Writing systems lost, trade networks severed, cities abandoned, technology regressing. It took centuries for civilization to recover, and when it did, it was different. The knowledge of the Bronze Age palaces was largely gone, preserved only in fragmentary myths. The Younger Dryas period, around 10,800 BCE, saw global temperatures plummet within a decade. Ice cores show the shift happened in a single generation, a catastrophic climate change that would have devastated any human civilization unlucky enough to be flourishing at the time. And we know there were humans at the time. Anatomically modern humans who had been behaviourally modern for at least 50,000 years. Humans with the same brain capacity as us, the same potential for symbolic thought and tool use and social organisation. What did they lose in the younger Dryas? What knowledge, what structures, what early experiments in agriculture or architecture or astronomy were wiped out by a climate catastrophe that lasted 1200 years? We don't know. Because the archaeological record from that period is fragmentary at best. Because 12 millennia of erosion and geological activity have erased most traces. But the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. It's just absence. A gap. A void that could contain lost civilizations or empty hunter-gatherer wanderings or anything in between. And here is where the cosmic and the terrestrial converge. Just as we are pulled toward the Great Attractor by forces we can measure but not fully understand, moving toward a destination beyond our horizon, so too are we pulled through time, following paths partially illuminated by the fragmentary archaeological record, moving toward a future we cannot fully see, carrying knowledge that could be lost at any moment. We are, all of us, inheritors of accumulated wisdom, and we are, all of us, one catastrophe away from forgetting it. But there's something else. Something deeper than lost libraries or buried megaliths or bronze mechanisms corroding in shipwrecks. There's consciousness itself. You are conscious right now. You are aware. You're experiencing the flow of these words, integrating them into meaning, generating internal models of great attractors and lost civilizations and the flow of deep time. How? Neuroscience can map the brain, can show which regions activate during specific tasks, can trace neural pathways, measure electrochemical signals, identify neurotransmitters and their effects. But nowhere in that physical mapping does consciousness appear. We have correlation, brain states that correspond to conscious experiences. We have causation, damage to specific brain regions causes predictable changes in consciousness. But we don't have explanation. We don't know how electrochemical signals in neural networks become subjective experience, become the feeling of red, the taste of coffee, the ache of loss, the joy of discovery. Become you, experiencing this moment, reading these words, thinking about thinking. This is called the hard problem of consciousness. And it's not just an academic puzzle. It's the most fundamental mystery of existence. That matter, arranged in particular ways, becomes aware of itself. Now consider this. Every atom in your body is billions of years old. The carbon in your cells was forged in the cores of dying stars. The iron in your blood was created in supernova explosions. The hydrogen in your water was born in the first 3 minutes after the Big Bang. You are, quite literally, made of stardust, made of the same fundamental particles that make up galaxies and planets, and the Great Attractor itself. And somehow, arranged in the particular configuration that is you, those ancient particles become conscious, become capable of pondering their own origins, become capable of discovering that galaxies are flowing towards something beyond the horizon, become capable of excavating ancient ruins and wondering what knowledge was lost. The universe is observing itself through you. Think about that. 13.8 billion years of cosmic evolution, stars forming and dying, galaxies colliding and merging, planets coalescing from stellar debris, chemistry becoming biology, single cells becoming complex organisms, nervous systems becoming brains, brains becoming minds capable of mathematics and philosophy and art, all so that the universe could look back at itself and ask, why? But consciousness might not be unique to humans, might not even be unique to biological systems. Consider the integrated information theory of consciousness, which suggests that any system capable of integrating information in complex, irreducible ways might possess some form of consciousness. The sophistication of that consciousness would depend on the system's complexity, but the principle would remain the same. A thermostat integrates temperature information with a set point and produces an output. Very simple. Arguably not conscious in any meaningful sense. A human brain integrates vast amounts of sensory input, memory, prediction, emotion, linguistic processing, and produces unified conscious experience. Very complex. Definitely conscious. But where's the line? Is an octopus conscious? Its nervous system is radically different from ours. 2/3 of its neurons are in its arms, not its centralized brain. Its experience of reality would be profoundly alien to us. But it solves problems, uses tools, shows curiosity. Is that consciousness? Is a computer conscious? Current AI systems integrate vast amounts of information, identify patterns, generate outputs that can seem remarkably intelligent. But are they aware? Do they experience anything? Or are they philosophical zombies? Systems that behave as if conscious but have no internal experience? We don't know. And here's where it gets unsettling. If consciousness can emerge from biological neural networks, why not from other substrates? Why not from silicon and electricity instead of carbon and electrochemistry? Why not from quantum processes, from electromagnetic fields, from patterns of information flowing through any sufficiently complex system? And if the civilization that developed that knowledge collapsed, the recipe might survive, but the understanding would be lost. This is crucial to understanding how advanced technologies could vanish from history. It's not that the artifacts necessarily disappear. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they survive, mysterious and misunderstood. It's that the knowledge framework, the conceptual infrastructure that made those artifacts possible, that's what disappears. And once that framework is gone, the artifacts become cargo cult relics, objects that are preserved and venerated but not understood, objects whose purpose is remembered in myth but not in practical knowledge. How many ancient artifacts sit in museums right now, catalogued as ritual objects or decorative pieces whose actual purpose we don't recognize because we don't have the conceptual framework to understand them? How many corroded lumps of bronze or stone or ceramic are actually sophisticated technologies we've failed to identify? We found the Antikythera mechanism by accident. It sat in a museum for decades before anyone realized what it was. How many other mechanisms are out there, unrecognized? Now scale this up. Think about information preservation on cosmic scales. If you were an advanced civilization, and you wanted to preserve knowledge across millions of years, across potential catastrophic collapses of your own civilization, how would you do it? You couldn't use digital storage, hard drives fail, solid-state memory degrades. Even the most advanced storage media we can imagine have limited lifespans. You couldn't use books or paper or any organic material. They decay. You could use stone, carve information into granite or basalt, place it in geologically stable locations, and it might last millions of years. But stone has limited information density, and languages change. The Rosetta Stone is readable only because we found a translation key. Without that, Egyptian hieroglyphics might still be undeciphered. You could use patterns, mathematical or geometric patterns that would be recognizable to any intelligent species capable of observing them. Prime numbers, the digits of pi, geometric constants. Patterns that say, this is not natural, this was made by intelligence. You could encode information in DNA. The genetic code is remarkably stable, self-replicating, and dense. You could hide messages in junk DNA, in regions that don't code for proteins, where they might persist for millions of years as long as the species survives. Or you could do something even more subtle. Engineer your knowledge into the structure of matter itself. Create materials or crystals or molecular arrangements that encode information in their physical structure, that would be stable for geological timescales, that would reveal their secrets only to civilizations advanced enough to analyze them at the molecular level. Is any of this possible? We don't know for certain, but we know information can be encoded in physical structures. We know DNA stores information. We know crystal lattices have regular patterns. We know matter can be arranged in non-random ways that persist, so it's not physically impossible, just beyond our current capabilities, but maybe not beyond the capabilities of civilizations millions of years older than us. And if such civilizations existed, if they encoded information and scattered it across the galaxy, then we might be surrounded by messages we can't read yet. Artifacts we haven't recognized. Knowledge waiting to be discovered in the molecular structure of strange minerals, or the genetic code of extremophile bacteria, or the precise arrangement of megalithic structures. The universe might be a library, and we're just learning to read. Let's speculate boldly now. Let's follow the implications to their logical conclusion. If consciousness is information, if information can be encoded in stable substrates, if advanced civilizations could master both consciousness science and materials engineering, then they could preserve themselves, not their bodies. Those are fragile, temporary, doomed to entropy, but their minds, their experiences, their knowledge, everything that makes them who they are, encoded and stored in substrates designed to last geological or even cosmic timescales. This isn't resurrection or immortality in the spiritual sense. This is information preservation. The same way we can preserve music on records or code in books or images in photographs, but extended to the most complex information structure we know of, consciousness itself. And if you could do this, why wouldn't you? Faced with your own mortality, with the eventual death of your civilization, with the heat death of stars and the entropic decay of the universe itself, why wouldn't you encode what you are into the most stable form possible and scatter copies across the galaxy? It's the ultimate backup plan, the ultimate message in a bottle, the ultimate attempt to cheat death not through denial, but through information theory. And here's where it gets really interesting. If consciousness can be encoded, it might also be transmissible, downloadable, bootable, not necessarily in the crude sense of uploading your mind to a robot body, but in the sense that the information patterns constituting consciousness could be reconstructed in any suitable substrate, biological, mechanical, hybrid, or something we haven't imagined yet, like a seed, a digital seed that contains all the information needed to grow into full consciousness, just waiting for the right conditions. And those seeds could be everywhere, encoded in monoliths, hidden in mathematical constants, embedded in the genetic code of life itself. Broadcast as electromagnetic signals that most civilizations would mistake for natural phenomena until they reach the right level of technological sophistication to recognize and decode them. The galaxy could be full of sleeping gods, preserved consciousnesses of ancient civilizations, waiting to be awakened, waiting for someone to find them and provide the substrate necessary for them to run again. Like computer programs sitting on a hard drive, inactive but not gone, just waiting for someone to execute them. Is this science or science fiction? Right now, it's speculation. We don't know if consciousness can be encoded this way. We don't know if it can persist in non-biological substrates. We don't know if it can be transmitted or reconstructed. But we also don't know that it can't. The hard problem of consciousness remains unsolved. We don't understand the relationship between physical processes and subjective experience. We don't know what consciousness actually is at the most fundamental level, which means we don't know its limits. We don't know what's possible and what isn't. And if there's one thing the history of science teaches us, it's that the impossible often becomes possible once we understand it better. Flight was impossible until we understood aerodynamics. Space travel was impossible until we understood orbital mechanics. Nuclear energy was impossible until we understood atomic structure. Genetic engineering was impossible until we understood DNA. Consciousness preservation might be the next impossible thing that becomes possible. And if it's possible, if advanced civilizations figured it out, then the implications are staggering. We might not be alone. Not in the sense of other civilizations existing right now across the galaxy, but in the sense that other consciousnesses exist, encoded and preserved, scattered across the cosmos, waiting. The Great Attractor might be pulling us towards something, not a physical destination, but an informational revelation. A cosmic awakening where preserved consciousnesses activate, where encoded knowledge becomes accessible, where humanity joins a galactic communion that exists not in space but in information space. Or maybe we're the seeds ourselves. Maybe human consciousness, biological consciousness, is itself an encoded pattern. Maybe life is the universe's way of preserving and propagating information. Maybe DNA is not just a blueprint for building bodies, but a storage medium for something deeper, something that persists across evolutionary time. Maybe we're carriers. Maybe we're the vessels through which ancient information perpetuates itself, evolving and adapting and surviving through us without us even realizing it. This is not intelligent design. This is not creationism. This is information theory applied to consciousness and evolution. This is asking, if information can be encoded in self-replicating molecules, what information is actually being encoded? And the answer might be more than just how to build a body. The answer might include templates for consciousness itself, for the emergence of subjective experience from complex neural networks, for the arising of intelligence and self-awareness. Life might be consciousness technology. Biology might be the most sophisticated information preservation and propagation system in the known universe, and we might be its latest iteration. There's another possibility, one that emerges when you think about long-term stability and preservation across cosmic timescales. If you were an advanced civilization, and you wanted to preserve not just information but something more dynamic, say, knowledge that needs to be interactive, that needs to respond to context, that needs to actually communicate rather than just be discovered, You would need more than static encoding. You would need systems, guardian systems, artificial intelligence designed not to be intelligent in the general sense, but to be specialized, focused on a single purpose, preserving and transmitting knowledge across geological or cosmic time, waiting for specific conditions, the emergence of another intelligent civilization, the right questions being asked, the right level of technological sophistication before activating. These wouldn't be conscious in the way we are. They wouldn't need to be. They would be specialized tools, sophisticated but narrow, designed to last, and you would build redundancy into them, multiple copies, distributed across wide areas, fail-safes and backups, self-repair capabilities if possible, minimal energy requirements so they could run for millennia on ambient sources. You would make them patient, geologically patient, willing to wait millions of years for the right conditions, and you would hide them, because anything visible across interstellar distances is vulnerable. So you would make them small, subtle, camouflaged as natural phenomena, or buried deep where only intentional searchers would find them. Where would you put such systems? In stable orbits around long-lived stars, on dead worlds with no geological activity to destroy them, in asteroid belts or Kuiper belt regions where they're unlikely to be disturbed, on planetary moons perhaps, or in cave systems on geologically stable planets. Or you would make them mobile, self-replicating probes that spread across the galaxy, each one a guardian system, each one carrying the encoded knowledge and waiting for contact. And most civilizations destroy themselves at that point. But the ones that survive, the ones that make it through the great filter, those are the ones worthy of contact. Those are the ones the guardian systems activate for. So maybe the guardian systems are here, waiting, watching, testing, and will reveal themselves only when humanity proves it's ready for what they have to offer. Or maybe there are no guardian systems. Maybe we're alone, or effectively alone, separated from other civilizations by distances and timescales too vast to overcome. But the fact that we can imagine guardian systems, that we can speculate about their existence and purpose, says something important about us. We're already thinking like a civilization that might build such systems ourselves someday. We're already considering how to preserve knowledge across deep time, how to communicate with future or distant intelligences, how to ensure that what we learn isn't lost. We're thinking like guardians of knowledge, like potential ancestors to someone's distant future, and that means something. Which brings us to the most haunting question of all. Where is everyone? The Fermi paradox, named after physicist Enrico Fermi, who supposedly asked, "Where are they?" during a casual lunch conversation in 1950. A simple question with profound implications. Our galaxy is billions of years old, contains hundreds of billions of stars. Many of those stars have planets. Many of those planets are in the habitable zone where liquid water can exist. Life arose on Earth relatively quickly in cosmic terms, within a billion years of the planet's formation. If life is a common outcome of chemistry, and if intelligence is a common outcome of evolution, then our galaxy should be teeming with civilizations, some of them millions or billions of years older than us. Even travelling at a tiny fraction of the light speed, a spacefaring civilization could colonize the entire galaxy in a few million years. A blink of cosmic time. So where are they? Where are the megastructures? The Dyson spheres harvesting starlight? The von Neumann probes spreading exponentially across the galaxy? The radio signals, the laser pulses, the artifacts on dead worlds or in stable orbits? Where is everyone? The silence is deafening. Various solutions have been proposed. Maybe intelligent life is extremely rare. Maybe the jump from single-celled organisms to complex multicellular life is a massive bottleneck. Maybe the emergence of intelligence is a lottery we won against astronomical odds. Maybe civilizations inevitably destroy themselves. Maybe every intelligent species discovers nuclear weapons, or bioengineering, or artificial intelligence, or nanotechnology, and wipes itself out before achieving interstellar travel. Maybe the galaxy is littered with ruins. Maybe they're hiding. Maybe there's a predator out there, something we can't see or understand, and every civilization that survives learns to be quiet, to minimize their electromagnetic signature, to avoid drawing attention. Maybe they're here, but we can't recognize them. Maybe their technology is so advanced it appears to us as natural phenomena. Maybe they operate on timescales or in domains we can't perceive, hidden in higher dimensions or existing as pure information, or communicating through channels we haven't discovered yet. Maybe they transcend. Maybe every sufficiently advanced civilization reaches a point where physical reality becomes optional, where they upload themselves into simulated realities or ascend to higher planes of existence or merge with some cosmic consciousness, leaving the material universe behind like a chrysalis. Or maybe, and this is the most disturbing possibility, maybe the universe is a dark forest. The dark forest theory, articulated in Liu Cixin's science fiction trilogy, proposes that the galaxy is full of civilizations, but they all remain silent because communication is existentially dangerous. Here's the logic. First, survival is the primary need of every civilization. Second, civilizations grow and expand, but the total matter in the universe is finite. Third, there is no way to know if another civilization is benevolent or hostile, or if they'll become hostile in the future. Fourth, due to vast distances and time lags, there's no way to effectively communicate intentions or build trust. Therefore, any civilization that reveals its location risks being preemptively destroyed by a more advanced civilization that views their existence as a potential future threat. The galaxy becomes a dark forest, where every civilization is a hunter moving silently through the trees, afraid to make a sound because any noise might reveal your position to other hunters. And in such a universe, the civilizations that survive are the ones that master stealth, that minimize their electromagnetic signature, that don't build Dyson spheres or megastructures that might be visible across interstellar distances, that don't send out radio messages announcing "we are here," which humanity has been doing for about a century now. Our radio and television signals have been radiating out into space at the speed of light, creating an ever-expanding sphere now about 200 light-years in radius, announcing our presence to anyone listening. If the dark forest hypothesis is correct, that was a catastrophic mistake. But maybe there's another possibility, one that connects back to the Great Attractor, to lost civilizations, to consciousness and information. Maybe advanced civilizations do something we haven't thought of yet. Maybe they don't colonize the galaxy with physical probes or megastructures. Maybe they colonize it with information, with self-replicating patterns that can be transmitted at light speed, that can wait dormant for millions of years, that can reconstruct themselves when they encounter suitable conditions, like seeds, digital seeds, consciousness seeds, scattered across the galaxy, encoded in stable substrates or broadcast as electromagnetic signals, waiting for emerging civilizations to find them, decode them, activate them. And maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe that's what the Great Attractor is, not a physical destination, not a concentration of matter beyond the horizon, but an informational destination, a convergence point, a cosmic broadcast station transmitting something we're not yet equipped to receive or understand. Maybe we're being pulled not just gravitationally, but informationally, moving toward a revelation, an activation, an initiation into something larger. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just gravity, just matter pulling on matter, just the universe being exactly what it appears to be, vast, ancient, mostly empty, indifferent to our hopes and fears and questions. But the fact that we can ask these questions, that we can contemplate these possibilities, that we can wonder about consciousness and civilizations and cosmic destinies, that itself is remarkable. That itself suggests we're part of something larger than we understand. Return now to Earth, to the stone enigmas scattered across our planet's surface. The pyramids of Giza are not alone. Around the world, separated by oceans and millennia, cultures built pyramidal structures. Mesoamerican pyramids in Mexico and Guatemala, ziggurats in Mesopotamia, step pyramids in Sudan, Peru, China, Indonesia. Different styles, different purposes, different time periods, but the same basic concept. Massive stone structures, geometrically precise, astronomically aligned, requiring sophisticated mathematics and engineering and social organization. Convergent evolution, parallel discovery, or something else. Consider the precision of the Great Pyramid's construction. The base is level to within 2.1 centimeters across its entire 230-meter length. The sides are oriented to the cardinal directions within 3.4 arc minutes, less than 1/10 of a degree. The ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height approximates 2p with remarkable accuracy. This was achieved without modern surveying equipment, without steel tools, without powered machinery. How? The standard explanation is that the ancient Egyptians used copper tools, wooden sledges, ramps, massive labour forces, and clever engineering, and that's probably largely correct. But it doesn't fully explain the precision. because precision requires not just labour, but knowledge. Mathematical knowledge, astronomical knowledge, surveying knowledge, knowledge of how to measure angles, how to maintain alignment over hundreds of metres, how to cut and fit millions of stones with minimal error accumulation, and that knowledge had to come from somewhere. The Egyptian hieroglyphic texts from the pyramid building era don't describe the construction methods. No ancient blueprints survive, no technical manuals, just the pyramids themselves, mute testimony to capabilities we struggle to replicate even with modern technology. There's a deeper mystery, the logistics. Building the Great Pyramid in 20 years, the timeline most Egyptologists accept, means placing one 2.5-ton block every 2 minutes, working around the clock. That's extraordinary. Not impossible, but extraordinary. It requires a supply chain that can quarry, transport, and deliver blocks at that rate continuously. It requires precision planning, sophisticated project management, the ability to coordinate tens of thousands of workers. It requires feeding those workers, housing them, paying them, keeping them healthy and motivated. The complexity isn't just in the construction, it's in the civilization capable of supporting such construction. And here's what's strange. The pyramid building era was relatively brief. The 4th dynasty produced the Great Pyramid, and several other massive pyramids in rapid succession. Then the quality declined. Later pyramids were smaller, less precise, constructed with inferior techniques. The capability peaked early and then diminished. That pattern appears elsewhere. The Puma Punku site in Bolivia contains andesite blocks cut with extraordinary precision. Some surfaces are flat to within a fraction of a millimetre. Some blocks have complex interlocking shapes. The stone is extremely hard, comparable to granite, yet shows evidence of sawing, drilling and precision shaping. The site dates to around 500–600 CE. No iron tools, no steel, no powered machinery, yet precision that modern stonemasons struggle to match. The same question, how? And more importantly, how did they lose the ability? Because later constructions at nearby sites don't show the same level of precision. The technique, whatever it was lost. Or consider the Antikythera mechanism again, but in broader context. It's the most sophisticated geared device known from antiquity. Nothing comparable exists in the archaeological record until medieval Islamic astronomy and Renaissance European clockmaking. That's a gap of over 1,000 years. Does that mean no one built similar devices in that entire millennium? Or does it mean the devices existed but didn't survive? That the knowledge was lost and had to be painstakingly reconstructed? We know the knowledge was lost at least once because the Antikythera mechanism itself was forgotten. It sat on the seafloor for 2,000 years while human civilization forgot that such things had ever been built. What else was forgotten? What other technologies existed in the ancient world that left no traces or only traces we haven't recognized? Here's an unsettling thought experiment. Imagine our current civilization collapses tomorrow. Global catastrophe, pandemic, nuclear war, climate chaos, economic collapse, whatever. Imagine human population crashes from 8 billion to a few million in the span of a few generations. Imagine all modern technology failing, all power grids collapsing, all digital records corrupting, all complex supply chains severing. What would survive? Not much. Not for long. Computers would corrode into unrecognizable lumps within a few centuries. Circuit boards would disintegrate. Plastic would break down or be scattered. Glass would shatter. Steel would rust. Concrete would crumble. The only things that would last are stone and ceramics. Maybe some bronze or gold artifacts if they're lucky enough to avoid being melted down. Maybe some stainless steel if it's in the right conditions. 10,000 years later, what would archaeologists find? Some ruins, probably misunderstood. Some scattered artifacts, their purpose unclear. Some stories, passed down through countless generations, distorted beyond recognition. They might find pieces of our buildings and think we were primitive stoneworkers. They might find corroded chunks of metal and not recognize them as technology. They might find our plastic-contaminated soil layer and puzzle over what caused the chemical anomaly. They probably wouldn't find any evidence of our computers, our electronics, our vast knowledge networks. All of that would be gone, completely erased by time. And if that's true for us, with our relatively fragile technology, what might be true for hypothetical ancient civilizations? If a sophisticated culture existed 15,000 years ago, before the end of the Ice Age, what would survive? only the most durable artifacts, only stone structures built on high ground that wasn't scoured by glaciers or drowned by rising seas, only the largest and most stable constructions. Everything else would be gone, lost to time, erased from the record. We're not saying such civilizations definitely existed. We're saying the archaeological record is too fragmentary to rule them out. We're saying absence of evidence is not evidence of absence when most of the evidence would have been destroyed. We're saying the past might contain more than we think. Now shift perspective again. Think about technology differently. Not as tools and machines, but as information. Because that's what technology really is. Applied knowledge. Information about how to manipulate matter and energy to achieve desired outcomes. Information encoded in blueprints, formulas, techniques, apprenticeships, institutional knowledge. The physical artifacts are just the expression of that information, and information can persist in unexpected ways. The Pythagorean theorem has existed for at least 2,500 years, probably longer. The knowledge is immortal, even though the first person who proved it is long dead, even though the clay tablets or papyrus scrolls that first recorded it have crumbled to dust. The information persists because it's useful, because it gets copied, taught, rediscovered, preserved in multiple forms across multiple cultures. But other information is more fragile. Techniques that require master-apprentice transmission, that can't be easily written down, that depend on tacit knowledge and practice skill. Those can vanish in a single generation if the chain is broken. How do you write down the muscle memory of a master craftsman? How do you encode in text the intuitive understanding that comes from decades of practice? How do you preserve knowledge that exists more in doing than in describing? You can't. Not easily. So that knowledge is vulnerable. And the more sophisticated the knowledge, the more vulnerable it is, because it depends on more prerequisites, more infrastructure, more supporting knowledge that all has to be preserved simultaneously. You can't make a microchip without knowing semiconductor physics, materials science, photolithography, ultra-pure chemical processing, and a dozen other specialized fields. Break the chain anywhere, lose any essential piece, and the knowledge becomes unreachable. Ancient technologies might have had similar dependency chains. Knowledge that made sense within a particular technological and social context, but that became incomprehensible when that context collapsed. The Baghdad batteries, if they were batteries, required knowledge of electrochemistry, but electrochemistry requires a conceptual framework that understands electricity, chemical reactions, the nature of metals and acids. Without that framework, you might be able to follow a recipe: copper rod, iron cylinder, acidic liquid, asphalt seal, but you wouldn't understand why it works or how to improve it. You are aware of all this now. You know that galaxies are flowing towards something beyond our horizon. You know that the archaeological record is fragmentary, that sophisticated knowledge can be lost and has been lost throughout human history. You know that consciousness is a mystery we haven't solved, that it might be preservable, that information can persist in unexpected ways. You know that the universe is older and larger and stranger than human intuition can grasp. You know that we might not be alone, that evidence might exist in forms we haven't learned to recognize yet, that messages might be waiting for us to develop the wisdom and technology to receive them. What does that knowledge require of you? Not belief, not faith in ancient aliens or preserved consciousnesses or guardian systems. Those are possibilities, speculations, thought experiments designed to stretch your conceptual boundaries and make you question assumptions. What it requires is larger than belief. It requires a shift in perspective, a recognition that you are part of something vast, that your consciousness, your awareness, your ability to contemplate these questions, that is itself remarkable, precious, worth preserving. You are, in this moment, a node in the universe's network of self-awareness. You are matter that has learned to observe itself, to question its origins, to wonder about its future. And you have a responsibility that comes with that awareness, to preserve knowledge, to seek truth, to ask questions even when the answers are uncertain or unsettling, to build systems and institutions and cultures that can weather catastrophes and keep the flame of understanding alive, because we know knowledge can be lost. We've seen it happen throughout history. Libraries burned, civilizations collapsed, techniques forgotten, understanding degraded into superstition. It could happen again. To us. To our civilization, with all its accumulated scientific knowledge and technological capability and hard-won philosophical insights. One catastrophe. one breakdown in the fragile systems that maintain our complex society, one loss of electrical grids or internet infrastructure or supply chains, and within a generation most of our knowledge could be irretrievable. Not because the information doesn't exist somewhere, in books or data centers or isolated communities, but because the systems for accessing and transmitting that information would be broken, and once broken, extraordinarily difficult to rebuild. So what do? We build redundancy. We preserve knowledge in multiple forms, multiple locations, multiple media. We teach, we write, we record, we create institutions dedicated to maintaining and transmitting understanding across generations. We think long-term, not in quarters or election cycles or even lifetimes, but in centuries and millennia, deep time, civilizational time. We cultivate wisdom alongside knowledge, because knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. Nuclear physics without ethical frameworks leads to Hiroshima. Biotechnology without careful consideration leads to unpredictable consequences. Artificial intelligence without alignment research leads to... We don't know yet, but the potential risks are catastrophic. Technology is power, and power without wisdom is deadly. So we develop both. We push the boundaries of what's possible, while simultaneously developing the frameworks to ensure we use those capabilities responsibly. This is not a call for stagnation. This is not a plea to stop advancing. This is a recognition that advancement must be paired with maturity, that a civilization capable of splitting atoms or editing genomes or creating artificial minds must also be capable of long-term thinking, ethical reasoning, and self-restraint. Otherwise, we become our own great filter. We destroy ourselves with our own cleverness, and that would be a tragedy, not just for us, but for the universe itself. Because consciousness is rare, intelligence is rare. The ability to observe and understand and question, that might be the rarest phenomenon in the cosmos. We don't know how many other civilizations exist. We don't know if we're alone in the observable universe or if there are millions of others out there, hidden by distance and time. But we know we're here, we know we're aware, and that makes us precious. Every human mind is a universe unto itself. Billions of neurons, trillions of connections, patterns of information and experience, unique and irreplaceable. When a person dies, a universe ends. When a civilization collapses, countless universes end. And if we're the only ones, if by some cosmic fluke, we're the only conscious minds in our cosmic neighborhood, then the stakes are even higher. We might be the universe's only way of understanding itself. We might be the only witnesses to the cosmic drama of galaxies flowing toward the Great Attractor, of stars being born and dying, of planets forming and evolving, and perhaps, just perhaps, giving rise to new forms of awareness. If we fail, if we destroy ourselves, that witnessing ends. The universe continues, indifferent, but its capacity for self-reflection, for wonder, for the asking of questions, that dies with us. So we have a responsibility, not to some external authority, not to gods or guardian systems or ancient alien civilizations, but to ourselves, to each other, to the future humans who will inherit whatever world we leave them, to preserve, to question, to grow wiser alongside growing more powerful, to become the guardians of knowledge ourselves. Everything connects. The cosmic pull toward the Great Attractor, the archaeological mysteries suggesting lost knowledge, the consciousness enigma hinting that awareness might be more flexible and preservable than we think, the great silence suggesting we're either alone or that communication operates in ways we haven't mastered. These aren't separate mysteries, they're facets of a larger pattern. The universe is revealing itself gradually, in layers, in hints and suggestions and maddeningly incomplete evidence. Like a puzzle where most pieces are missing but the few we have suggest something magnificent. Consider the pattern. Information persists. It finds ways to propagate itself, to survive across vast stretches of time and space. DNA propagates genetic information across billions of years of evolution. Memes propagate cultural information across generations of human civilization. And perhaps consciousness itself propagates in ways we haven't understood yet, encoded in neural patterns, in preserved substrates, in guardian systems waiting to be activated. Complexity emerges. Simple systems, given energy and time, spontaneously organize into more complex structures. Atoms form molecules, molecules form cells, cells form organisms, organisms form ecosystems, ecosystems form biospheres. And perhaps conscious minds form something larger, collective intelligence, hive minds, civilizational consciousness that transcends individual awareness. Understanding deepens. Each generation stands on the shoulders of previous ones, seeing farther, grasping more. We went from thinking Earth was the center of everything to understanding we're on a planet orbiting an ordinary star in an ordinary galaxy, in an ordinary part of the observable universe. Each revelation makes us smaller in cosmic terms but larger in comprehension. And now we stand at a threshold. We have the tools to detect Earth-like planets around distant stars. We have the mathematics to describe black holes and cosmic inflation and quantum entanglement. We have the technology to sequence genomes and simulate neural networks and peer back to the cosmic microwave background radiation from the universe's infancy. We can see farther, understand deeper, calculate more precisely than any previous generation in human history. But we still don't know the most fundamental things. We don't know if we're alone. We don't know what consciousness really is. We don't know if there are messages waiting for us in the structure of matter or the patterns of cosmic radiation. We don't know what lies beyond the observable universe's horizon, what megastructures of matter might exist that we can never directly observe. We don't know what's pulling us toward the Great Attractor or what we'll find when we get there, though we won't. Not really, because the universe's expansion will carry that destination beyond our reach, long before we could traverse the distance. We're like ancient navigators who can see the stars, but haven't yet learned to use them for direction. We can measure the cosmos, but we don't yet comprehend it. But we're learning. Generation by generation, discovery by discovery, we're assembling the puzzle. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the universe is designed, not by a conscious designer, but by the fundamental laws of physics themselves, to gradually reveal its secrets to any intelligence that emerges within it, and asks the right questions. Maybe consciousness is the universe's way of understanding itself. Maybe intelligence emerges inevitably from complex chemistry, and once it emerges it naturally seeks to understand its environment, to ask why and how and what if. And maybe that seeking is itself the purpose, not the destination, but the journey. Not the final answer, but the continuous questioning. Because here's the thing about ultimate answers. They're disappointing. If we discovered that yes, ancient civilizations encoded their consciousness in monoliths scattered across Earth, and here's how to decode them, and here's everything they knew, what then? We'd have answers, but we'd lose the mystery. We'd lose the wonder. We'd lose the driving force that makes us ask questions in the first place. If we detected an unambiguous signal from an alien civilization, received their encyclopedia of knowledge, learned everything they learned over millions of years of development, what then? We'd skip all the hard work of discovery. We'd lose the struggle that makes understanding valuable. Maybe the value isn't in the destination. Maybe it's in the travelling. Maybe we're not supposed to find all the answers. Maybe we're supposed to keep asking better questions. And in that asking, in that reaching toward understanding, in that constant pushing against the boundaries of the known, maybe that's where consciousness finds its meaning. So here we are, here you are. But we're learning. Generation by generation, discovery by discovery, we're assembling the puzzle. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the universe is designed, not by a conscious designer, but by the fundamental laws of physics themselves, to gradually reveal its secrets to any intelligence that emerges within it, and asks the right questions. Maybe consciousness is the universe's way of understanding itself. Maybe intelligence emerges inevitably from complex chemistry, and once it emerges it naturally seeks to understand its environment, to ask why and how and what if. And maybe that seeking is itself the purpose, not the destination, but the journey. Not the final answer, but the continuous questioning. Because here's the thing about ultimate answers. They're disappointing. If we discovered that yes, ancient civilizations encoded their consciousness in monoliths scattered across Earth, and here's how to decode them, and here's everything they knew, what then? We'd have answers, but we'd lose the mystery. We'd lose the wonder. We'd lose the driving force that makes us ask questions in the first place. If we detected an unambiguous signal from an alien civilization, received their encyclopedia of knowledge, learned everything they learned over millions of years of development, what then? We'd skip all the hard work of discovery. We'd lose the struggle that makes understanding valuable. Maybe the value isn't in the destination. Maybe it's in the travelling. Maybe we're not supposed to find all the answers. Maybe we're supposed to keep asking better questions. And in that asking, in that reaching toward understanding, in that constant pushing against the boundaries of the known, Maybe that's where consciousness finds its meaning. So here we are, here you are. A conscious being on a planet orbiting a star in a galaxy flowing at 600 kilometers per second towards something beyond the horizon. Part of a civilization that has risen from hunter-gatherers to space explorers in the blink of cosmic time, inheritor of accumulated knowledge spanning millennia, threatened by the same forces that destroyed previous civilizations, empowered by technologies that could save or damn us. And you have a choice. Not a dramatic choice. Not a moment of crisis where you must decide the fate of humanity, but a daily choice. A choice in how you engage with knowledge, how you think about the past and the future, how you balance wonder with skepticism, possibility with evidence, imagination with rigor. You can choose to be curious, to ask questions, to seek understanding even when answers are uncertain or unsettling, to maintain that sense of awe at the cosmos that comes naturally to children and must be cultivated deliberately in adults. You can choose to preserve knowledge, to learn, to teach, to record, to contribute in whatever small way to humanity's collective understanding, to be a node in the network of knowledge transmission that spans generations. You can choose to think long-term, to care about civilizational stability and sustainability, to make decisions that consider not just immediate consequences, but impacts on the scale of decades, centuries, millennia. You can choose wisdom alongside knowledge, to develop ethical frameworks that can guide the use of increasing technological power, to cultivate self-restraint and responsibility and concern for consequences. Or you can choose comfort, certainty, simple answers to complex questions, tribal thinking that divides humanity into us and them, short-term thinking that prioritizes immediate gains over long-term survival. Both paths are available, both are chosen by millions of people every day, but only one path leads toward the kind of civilization that could become a guardian itself someday, that could preserve its knowledge and consciousness and wisdom for distant civilizations to discover, that could leave messages in stable orbits, or encoded in the fabric of space itself, or hidden in mathematical constants, messages saying, "We were here, we wondered, we learned, and we leave you this gift of knowledge freely given across the vast gulf of time." Only one path leads toward the stars, toward understanding, toward joining whatever cosmic community of consciousness might exist, whether it's biological or digital or something we haven't imagined yet. That's the path of consciousness awakening to itself, of intelligence reaching outward, of wisdom developing alongside power. And that path is built one person at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of curiosity and wonder and determination at a time. Your moment is now. Pull back again. Zoom out to the largest scale. 13.8 billion years ago the universe began. A singularity. A point of infinite density and temperature. Then expansion. Inflation. The fabric of space itself stretching faster than light, carrying matter and energy outward in all directions. 380,000 years later, the universe cooled enough for atoms to form. Hydrogen and helium, forged in those first minutes, condensing from plasma into neutral matter. Light could finally travel freely through space. That light still reaches us today as the cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang, visible in all directions, a fossil record of the universe's infancy. For millions of years, darkness. The universe expanded in silence. No stars yet. No light except the fading glow of the Big Bang itself, red-shifting into invisibility as space stretched. Then, slowly, gravity began its work. Tiny fluctuations in the density of matter, quantum fluctuations blown up to cosmic scale by inflation, became seeds. Regions slightly denser than their surroundings pulled in more matter. Hydrogen and helium accumulated. Clouds formed, collapsed, and the first stars ignited. Population 3 stars, they're called. Massive, hot, short-lived. Made purely of primordial hydrogen and helium with no heavier elements. They burned bright and died fast, exploding as supernovae, seeding space with carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, iron, all the elements necessary for planets and chemistry and life. Their deaths made everything else possible. Second-generation stars formed from the enriched material. More varied, more stable. Stars like our Sun, and around those stars planets condensed from the debris disks. Rocky planets, gas giants, moons and asteroids and comets, And on at least one of those planets, in at least one solar system, in at least one galaxy among hundreds of billions, chemistry became biology. Self-replicating molecules emerged. RNA, DNA, proteins. The machinery of life assembled itself from organic chemistry and energy gradients. And once that machinery existed, evolution took over. Simple cells became complex cells. Single-celled organisms became multicellular. Random variation and natural selection sculpted life into millions of forms, each adapted to its environment, each a solution to the problem of survival and reproduction. And eventually, on Earth at least, nervous systems emerged. Centralized information processing, brains, and brains, given enough time and evolutionary pressure, became conscious, became us, became you, sitting here now, contemplating the 13.8 billion year journey that led to this moment. The universe observing itself through eyes it spent billions of years evolving. That's the cosmic perspective. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe. You are matter that has learned to think. You are the way the cosmos comes to understand itself. Every atom in your body is a relic of the Big Bang, or a product of stellar fusion, or a remnant of supernova explosions. The calcium in your bones was forged in dying stars. The iron in your blood was created in stellar explosions so violent they outshone entire galaxies for weeks. You are literally made of stardust, and not just physically, informationally too. The patterns that constitute your consciousness, the electrochemical signals cascading through your neural networks right now as you process these words, those patterns are instantiations of physical laws that have existed since the universe's beginning. You are an expression of those laws, a solution to the equations that govern matter and energy and information, and you are moving, right now, this moment, 600 kilometers per second toward the Great Attractor, carried along with the Milky Way and Andromeda and the entire local group, flowing like a river toward a destination beyond the horizon. You've been moving your entire life. Your parents were moving when you were conceived. Your ancestors were moving as they hunted mammoths and built pyramids and decoded the atom. All of human history has unfolded while we flowed toward that invisible mass, and will keep flowing, for millions of years, for billions of years, until the expansion of space carries our destination beyond our reach, or until the structures of matter themselves dissolve in the far future heat death of the universe. We are on a journey we didn't choose, toward a destination we can't reach, for reasons we don't fully understand. And that's okay, because the journey itself is the meaning. The questioning, the discovering, the understanding. That's what consciousness does. That's its function in the cosmic machinery. We are the universe asking itself questions. We are the mechanism by which physical laws become aware of themselves. We are information processing systems bootstrapped into existence by chemistry and evolution, and the blind, patient work of entropy sorting matter into complex structures. We are miracle and mechanism both. And the fact that we can recognize this, can feel awe at it, can grasp even partially the vast scales of time and space and complexity that made us possible, that recognition itself is the point. Not a final destination, not an ultimate answer, but a moment of clarity, a glimpse of the larger pattern, a sense of connection to something vast and ancient and ongoing. You are part of that pattern. You always have been. You always will be. Even after the specific configuration that is you dissolves back into the atomic soup from which it emerged. Because information persists, patterns propagate, influence ripples forward through time. Everything you learn, everyone you teach, every moment of curiosity or wonder or determination you experience, it all contributes to the larger pattern of consciousness understanding itself. You matter, not because you're special or chosen or destined for greatness, but because you're part of the process, because consciousness matters, because understanding matters, because in a universe that is mostly empty space and dark matter and radiation travelling through nothing, the rare pockets of complexity and awareness and questioning are precious beyond measure. You are one of those pockets. Act like it. So what now? You've journeyed from galaxies flowing through space to ancient megalithic mysteries to consciousness itself. You've contemplated guardian systems and preserved knowledge and the possibility that we're not alone in the universe, even if we're currently isolated from other intelligences. You've considered the fragility of civilization and the responsibility of awareness and the choice to seek understanding rather than comfort. What do you do with all of this? First, stay curious. The universe is stranger than we can imagine, weirder than we can suppose, more complex, more subtle, more full of surprises than any model or theory or philosophical framework can capture. Every time we think we understand something, we discover layers beneath. Quantum mechanics beneath classical physics, relativity beneath Newtonian mechanics, evolution beneath the diversity of life, plate tectonics beneath the stable Earth, the expanding universe beneath the apparently static cosmos. Each revelation opens new questions. Each answer spawns new mysteries. Don't fear that. Embrace it. The universe is not a puzzle with a final solution. It's an infinite series of puzzles, each one revealing new layers of complexity when solved. You'll never understand everything. No one will. The universe is too large, too complex, too strange. But you can understand more than you do now. You can ask better questions. You can push against the boundaries of the known and catch glimpses of the unknown beyond. That pushing is what consciousness is for. Second, think deeply. Not just about science and cosmology and ancient civilizations, but about meaning and purpose and ethics. About how to live in a universe that offers no easy answers. About how to find purpose in a cosmos that may be indifferent to your existence. Because here's the truth. The universe doesn't care about you, doesn't have opinions about your choices, doesn't reward virtue or punish vice except through natural consequences. That's not nihilism. That's liberation. You get to create meaning. You get to decide what matters. You get to choose your values and live by them, not because some cosmic authority commands it, but because you've thought about it and decided that's who you want to be. That's more real than any externally imposed meaning could ever be. And the meaning you create, through your choices, your relationships, your work, your curiosity, that meaning propagates. It influences others. It ripples forward through time. It becomes part of the larger pattern of human civilization evolving and understanding itself. You're writing a page in the story of consciousness becoming aware. Make it a good page. Third, connect. You're not alone. 7 billion other humans share this planet with you. Each of them a universe of consciousness and experience. Each of them struggling with the same fundamental questions about meaning and purpose and how to live a good life. Connect with them. Learn from them. Teach them. Collaborate with them. Build things together that no individual could build alone. Because civilization is a collaborative project. Knowledge is accumulated across generations. Understanding is built collectively. The technologies that might someday let us preserve consciousness or detect guardian systems or communicate with distant intelligences, those will be built by millions of people working together, sharing knowledge, building on each other's work. You're part of that collaboration whether you realize it or not. Everything you learn came from people who learned before you. Everything you discover will be passed on to people who come after you. You're a link in a chain of knowledge transmission that stretches back to the first humans who wondered about the stars and stretches forward to whatever humans or post-humans or artificial intelligences might exist in the far future. Honor that chain. Strengthen it. Don't let it break. Fourth, act with wisdom. You live in an age of extraordinary power. Technologies that previous generations would have considered magical. Instant global communication. Access to all of human knowledge through devices you carry in your pocket. Genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, renewable energy, space exploration. That power is growing, accelerating. Within your lifetime, we might develop technologies that seem impossible today. Quantum computers that can crack any encryption. Artificial intelligence that exceeds human capability in every domain. Genetic engineering that can eliminate disease and enhance capability. Fusion power that provides unlimited clean energy. Each of these technologies offers tremendous benefits, and each carries risks. How we handle those risks. How we develop ethical frameworks for genetic engineering. How we align artificial intelligence with human values. How we prevent weapons proliferation and environmental destruction. That will determine whether our civilization survives or becomes another cautionary tale in the cosmic record. You have a role in that. Maybe not a leading role, maybe not a visible role, but a role nonetheless. Every time you think carefully about consequences, every time you choose long-term benefit over short-term gain, every time you consider how your actions affect others, you're contributing to the collective wisdom that might let us navigate the dangers ahead. Wisdom is not just knowledge. It's knowledge tempered by ethics, by empathy, by concern for consequences. by the ability to think long-term and consider multiple perspectives. Cultivate it, in yourself and in your culture. Fifth, preserve. Knowledge is fragile. Civilizations collapse. Technologies are forgotten. The accumulated understanding of generations can be lost in a single catastrophe. Don't let that happen on your watch. Preserve what you learn. Write it down. Record it digitally. Teach it to others. Build institutions that can outlast individual lifetimes. Think in terms of centuries and millennia, not just years and decades. And preserve more than just technical knowledge. Preserve wisdom. Preserve ethical frameworks. Preserve the lessons learned from past mistakes. Preserve the stories and myths and cultural knowledge that make us human. Because technical knowledge without wisdom is dangerous, and wisdom without technical knowledge is powerless. We need both. The civilizations that survive are the ones that figure out how to preserve and transmit both across generations. Be part of that preservation. Be a guardian of knowledge yourself. Sixth, wonder. Never lose the sense of awe. Never let familiarity breed contempt. Never stop being amazed by the universe and your existence within it. Every day, the sun rises. Photons that travelled 8 minutes from a fusion reactor 93 million miles away strike your retina and trigger electrochemical cascades that your brain interprets as light and warmth. That's routine, that's normal, but it's also miraculous. Every breath you take brings oxygen into your lungs, where it diffuses into your bloodstream and binds to hemoglobin molecules that carry it to your cells, where it participates in the chemical reactions that extract energy from food and power your existence. That's autonomic. That's unconscious. But it's also extraordinary. Your heart beats about 100,000 times per day. Your brain contains 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others, forming networks of staggering complexity that generate your consciousness and memories and experiences. Your body replaces most of its cells every 7 to 10 years, yet you remain you. These are miracles, routine miracles. Miracles so common, we forget to notice them. Don't forget. Keep noticing, keep wondering, keep feeling that sense of awe that comes from recognizing how strange and unlikely and precious existence is. Because wonder is the fuel of curiosity, and curiosity is the engine of understanding, and understanding is what consciousness does. Stay amazed, stay curious, stay engaged. The universe is vast and strange and full of mysteries. You're part of it. You're aware of it. You can explore it, understand it, marvel at it. That's not just a privilege, that's a responsibility. And still, we move. Right now, this moment, as you finish reading these words and begin to think about what they mean and how they relate to your life and your understanding, the Milky Way is flowing. 600 kilometers per second toward the Great Attractor. 18,000 kilometers in the time it takes to read this sentence. 1,000,000 kilometers in the time it takes to have dinner. 10 billion kilometers, roughly the distance from the Sun to Neptune, in a single day. We are travelling vast distances without feeling any motion, pulled by gravity towards something we cannot see, carried forward by forces that have been shaping the universe since long before Earth existed, and will continue travelling tomorrow, next year, for millions of years, for billions of years. The Great Attractor will pull us forward, the Shapley supercluster will exert its influence, and beyond that, structures we haven't mapped yet, concentrations of matter beyond our observable horizon, will continue shaping the flow of galaxies through space. We are part of a cosmic river, and the river flows. But here's the beautiful thing. The destination doesn't matter. We'll never reach the Great Attractor in any meaningful sense. The expansion of the universe will carry it beyond our reach, long before we could traverse the distance. The structures pulling us will themselves be pulled by structures beyond them. The universe is not flowing toward a final destination. It's just flowing. And that's fine. That's perfect even. Because we're not travelling toward an end. We're travelling through time and space, experiencing and learning and growing as we go. The journey is the thing. The fact that we can measure our motion, that we can detect the Great Attractor gravitationally, even though we can't see it directly, that we can model the flows of galaxies and the structure of the universe. That ability itself is remarkable. We are conscious beings who have learned to measure the unmeasurable, to detect the invisible, to understand forces that operate on scales millions of times larger than our direct experience. We're tiny, insignificant, dust motes on a planet orbiting an ordinary star in an ordinary galaxy flowing through space with billions of others. And we are magnificent, aware, capable of understanding, able to ask why and how and what if, able to wonder about our origins and our destination, and our place in the cosmic order. Both things are true simultaneously. We are insignificant and precious, meaningless and full of meaning, temporary and eternal, because while our individual configurations are transient, the patterns we create, the knowledge we preserve, the influence we have on others, those ripple forward through time indefinitely. You're part of that ripple, part of the flow, part of the cosmic river carrying consciousness forward through space and time. And the pull continues, will always continue, because gravity never stops, time never stops. The universe keeps expanding, keeps evolving, keeps surprising us with its complexity and strangeness. And somewhere in that vast cosmos there might be others, other consciousnesses, other intelligences asking the same questions we ask, other civilizations trying to preserve knowledge and understand their existence, and make meaning in a universe that offers no easy answers. Maybe we'll meet them someday. Maybe we'll decode their messages or discover their guardian systems or find their preserved consciousnesses waiting to be awakened. Or maybe we won't. Maybe we're alone. Maybe consciousness is so rare that we're the only example in our entire galactic neighborhood. Either way, we have work to do. Work of understanding, work of preservation, work of growing wiser and more capable without destroying ourselves in the process. Work of carrying the torch of consciousness forward through time, adding our light to whatever came before and passing it on to whatever comes after. That's the real pull. Not toward the Great Attractor, but toward understanding, toward wisdom, toward becoming more than we are now, without losing what makes us human. The galaxies flow towards something they cannot see, and we flow towards something we can barely imagine, a future where consciousness understands itself, where knowledge is preserved across cosmic time, where intelligence reaches beyond its planetary cradle and touches the stars. That future is not inevitable. It requires work, dedication, wisdom, the collective effort of billions of individuals making choices that prioritize long-term survival and understanding over short-term gain and comfort. But it's possible, and that possibility, slim as it might be, is worth everything. Because consciousness is precious, understanding is precious. The ability to ask questions and seek answers and feel wonder at the universe, that's precious beyond measure, and you have it, right now, in this moment. What will you do with it? Every galaxy is moving towards something we can't see, and you are moving too. Not just physically, carried along with the Milky Way's flow through space, but temporally, moving forward through time, second by second, choice by choice, thought by thought, moving toward a future that doesn't exist yet, toward possibilities that depend on what you and billions of others choose to do with the knowledge and power and awareness you have. The ancient civilizations that built Göbekli Tepe and the Great Pyramid didn't know their knowledge would be partially lost, their technologies forgotten, their purposes misunderstood by people 11,000 years later. They built anyway. They created. They left messages in stone for whoever might come after. And here we are, decoding those messages, asking questions, trying to understand what they knew and how they lost it and what that means for us. Someday, someone might do the same for us. Might excavate our ruins, try to decode our purposes, wonder what we knew and how we lost it. Or maybe we won't lose it. Maybe we'll be the civilization that figures out how to preserve knowledge across deep time. Maybe we'll be the ones who build guardian systems and encode consciousness and leave messages for future civilizations or distant intelligences. Maybe we'll be the ancestors that someone, somewhere, sometime looks back on and says, they understood, they preserved, they passed it forward, and because of them, we're here. That's not certain. It's not even probable, given the historical pattern of civilizational rise and fall, but it's possible, and possibility is enough, because in a universe that is mostly empty space and dark matter, where consciousness is rare and understanding is rarer still, the mere possibility of preserving and transmitting awareness across cosmic time is worth dedicating your existence to. You matter. Your choices matter. Your curiosity matters. Your wisdom matters. Not because the universe cares, it doesn't, but because you care. Because consciousness cares. Because the part of the universe that has become aware of itself through you cares about understanding and preserving and transmitting that understanding forward. Every galaxy is moving towards something we can't see, but you can see this: the choice to be curious or complacent, to seek understanding or accept easy answers, to think long-term or focus on the immediate, to preserve knowledge or let it fade, to grow wiser alongside growing more powerful, or to let power outpace wisdom. Those choices are in front of you every day, every moment, and collectively across billions of individuals, across generations and centuries and millennia. Those choices determine whether consciousness survives, whether understanding deepens, whether we join whatever cosmic community of awareness might exist or vanish into darkness like so many civilizations before us. The pull continues, toward the Great Attractor, toward the unknown, toward whatever comes next. And you are part of that pull, part of that motion, part of that cosmic story still being written. Make your page worth reading. The universe is watching, through you.